Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome back to Mountain Valley Farm, episode number 18. And we continue on with our endeavors of collecting enough grass and of course turning that grass into hay and getting that belled up because we just didn't get enough. Hay from the first cutting that we did in these fields right around here, sort of the inner loop, the areas that we owned. And this grass, unfortunately, has just not reached a high enough growth stage to cut it again. We could, it would get a little bit out of it, but it's not really worth the effort. So we are going to go ahead and move over here into this outside area here. Now, there's only really one entrance into this, and it's over here by the diner. And so we're going to basically kind of work this direction around and see if there's any areas that have or contain enough grass to really do it justice. We're obviously going to be starting here in an area that will be just fine. It'll give us a little bit of hay. Just kind of checking things and kind of updating you all on the progress. Here's where our grass growth is. I suppose this is about this stage here. It's second or third level stage. And then, of course, our soybeans are still at, I believe, the first stage of growth. So we still have a little ways to go before any of this stuff is going to be ready to be harvested. Everything obviously is fertilized all the way up to the tip top, so we've got all of that. Everything is obviously plowed as well, so we're going to get max yield off of these fields, pending we don't have any other sort of problems that kind of come along and bite us. So let's just get right ahead and get started. We are again over here on the left-hand side of the road. This is the area that I essentially worked with the county commissioner to get access to, and so since this was granted access, I want to certainly take use of it, and we will get some of this grass here thinned out and obviously make good use of this for ourselves, and I think it'll come in handy for us on our farm for the rest of this season, obviously. So we're just going to kind of just drive through here as best as we can. May only be able to make like maybe 2 passes in this area where we are right now. I'm not going to worry about getting too close to the fence row over there, just because it'll be a little harder to maybe get that grass with the tedder and stuff. And this is basically a continuous loop all the way around, so we can just kind of do this area, and of course we'll take advantage of this wider area here that we're coming up on, and maybe scooch over just a little bit here and take advantage of this. So I thought about when I got up this morning to figure out what I was going to do as far as recording content and everything for the channel. I thought, well, I'll just do this grass work off camera, but then I started looking at the sort of the time, where we were with the schedule and everything, and just thinking to myself, well, it's just early summer. Of course, playing at 5x speed when I have somewhat been used to playing at 15x speed with the challenge, obviously is in and of itself is a little bit unique. It's a little bit of a challenge because as I am starting to really get used to, I think, the 15x speed with the challenge itself, it is still somewhat, it feels like everything's moving much slower with regards to, say, this map and the work on this map here. But I would end up, I guess long story short, what I'm trying to say is if I did a lot of this stuff off camera, I would still end up fast forwarding, and you guys would have seen, like, the last episode would have been in early summer or late spring or whatever was the last episode. I can't remember now. And then all of a sudden we would be in mid-spring or midsummer or something like that. So I'm trying to keep things consistent because it is a story that we're telling, and all this stuff has to be done. I know I say that quite a bit. It's not an excuse or anything on my part. It just really, it's the truth. I mean, it's if you guys are playing Farm Sim, and I'm sure you are, then you know that in order to do these kind of things, it's got to be done. You got to make sure that you have plenty of hay. You got to make sure you have plenty of grass and silage and stuff like that for your animals. And if you're playing this very map, then you also know that how it's not easy to get these things. You don't have a lot of options with regards to if you wanted to plant grass field. We could have done that, I suppose. We could have planted a grass field, a hay field, but then that would cut us short on the amount of crops that we could grow, because again, space for fields is rather limited unless you want to sort of go in and start clearing these areas over here, or more of the areas in the inner circle area. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of mow our way back to the area, to the starting point, and then probably we might drive down further back the direction behind us and see if there's another sort of wide open area that we could mow. But outside of that, we'll probably need to go back to the farm and grab the tedder and go ahead and ted this. But I'll try to mow at least for half of the episode. That way maybe we'll ted for the other half of the episode, and that will basically be us done with episode number 18. And then when we come back, we can maybe rake and bell or something like that. But I am playing 5x speed here on this map, and then obviously sort of fast forwarding as and when I need to. I will just say that I am still running the old version of the Seasons mod on Mountain Valley Farm, just simply because the brand new version, the version that was released on the Mod Hub, basically would tell me that I've got a illegal, unauthorized version of the Seasons mod if I tried to interject it into the gameplay. And even though that is not true, it's not. I don't have the version that I'm playing on Mountain Valley Farm is not illegal. It's not unauthorized. It was basically given to us, those of us who did the preview stuff for the Seasons mod team. It's just that it would basically conflict and it would mess up our game save. So long story short is. It's not illegal, but we're going to have to continue to stay. Is it Shift V? Yeah, it's Shift V that lifts everything up. We're going to have to stay on this version until we get done playing this map. So anyway, let's see if there's another open space down here, and then that way we can mow for a little bit more, and then see, these trees are sort of in the way. Let's fold up and drive through here and see if we can get around. It's unfortunate that we don't have a gate in here, because like we're like right across from our farm entrance. I mean, there's the pond right there, so we're like right across the farm entrance. So we'll go up here a little further, and if we don't see a nice open area, then we'll go ahead and turn around and head back, because while this area I will probably get some grass from over here if we need it, I'll just bring the single mower deck and bring the single mower deck and bring the forage wagon over here just to get grass if we need it. But oh, this is nice here. We'll go ahead and cut this. And do this as well. So let's go ahead and unfold. Now we'll do this area, and what I'd like to try to do maybe is maybe make this be our last mowing. Don't have to come back and mow again. I'm still in two minds as to whether or not I'm going to play this map a second year. There's so many maps out there. There's so many really good maps out there that And with the challenge, obviously with the challenge, my time, I am playing the challenge map at least 6 episodes a week, 5 or 6 episodes a week. Now that's going to change here in a couple of weeks because I do have to travel for work, but still, 5 or 6 episodes a week of the challenge. And so it's been nice that we've had things slow paced here on this map, but I think that when we get done with this map, and we'll play this out one season, kind of see how things go, but I really think that most likely once we get done with this, then we'll gear up and start playing another map. And I don't know what that's going to be yet because I have one in mind, but unless it's released to the general public, I'm not going to play it, because that's sort of my promise to you guys, is I'm not going to play something, or I'm not going to use things on my channel that you guys can't get access to. And unfortunately, as at the time that I'm recording this episode, this map, Mountain Valley Farm, has been pulled off of being able to be downloaded, simply because there's an issue with the map in the new version of the Seasons mod. Now obviously we don't have that issue because I'm using the older version of the Seasons mod, the mod that we were sort of previewing for the mod team and helping the mod team test and everything. So I've got essentially 2 versions of Seasons in my mod folder. I've got the latest and greatest version that I'm using on the challenge and what I will use going forward with any other map that I happen to play. But then I have this older version, this version that we were given directly from the mod development team. And I don't know what version number it is, I can't remember, but anyway, this is, and obviously I can't distribute this version of this mod, and I can't distribute the map because that goes against the wishes of the modding teams, and I don't do that kind of stuff. So, and I'm not even going to ask for permission because I don't want to be in the business of providing mod downloads to people. So essentially, I do apologize that I'm playing a map that you guys can't get to right now. Old Guy Farmer is supposedly working on this, but of course he's also doing the challenge as well, and he's busy with other projects as well. So we'll just be patient. I'm sure he'll get around to working on it and getting it made available for you all to enjoy. I hope very, very soon. So now we just need to speed back around because obviously it's sort of, as far as I know, and I'll double check that when we get back around to the diner, but I believe it's just one way in and one way out, unfortunately. So in other words, you got to go all the way around. So here we are again, coming up on the main farm entrance. There's our utility pole with our night light on it. But we've got to go all the way around because when I first sort of eyeballed this several weeks ago, I think even before I went on vacation, I didn't think that there was a way to get behind the gas station, the fuel station, and so I think I just pretty much said it must be just sort of one way in and one way out. And so we will definitely, let's see, we're coming up on 14 minutes, so that's pretty good timing, but of course we've got to drive all the way back around the highway again. But we should be able to get this stuff here tedded, and then in the next episode, I guess that'll be 19, if my numbering is still accurate, then we will come in and rake it and most likely bale it. So let me just double check this again because this could make the world of difference. Excuse me. But yeah, see, I don't think, again, we're gonna check it because there's a wall there, so we can't get over that wall. This is the little cutout here in the fence, and if I come down this direction, get out of the cab so I can look, see the fence goes all the way up to that brick wall. So I don't, and there's trees all behind there, so I don't think, I suppose we could always break out the chainsaw and we can make a path, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to be worth it to go to all that trouble just to get a second way of getting around to things. Our soybeans are looking good. Checked on those this morning, and I tell you what, I really feel like grandfather is smiling down on me and is so appreciative of the hard work that we have put into the farm, put into getting things back to where it was when he had it, and farming his methods and everything. And I'm just really pleased that, you know, I was at a point in my life where I was able to essentially do that. So kind of looking at the forecast up there, we've got some rain tomorrow, so of course that's why it's going to be important to get this, to get our hay and everything in today. Now that is somewhat unrealistic because obviously for hay to dry, it has to lay out on the ground for a day or so, and then you ted it and basically flip it over so it further dries, and then you rake it and you bale it. Unfortunately, the seasons mod is not as forgiving as I guess, you know, real life things are. Grass will begin to deteriorate and rot and essentially be removed from the ground if we don't do this within fairly quick fashion, unfortunately. All right, so I know we've done, you know, I have illustrated, or I have covered doing mowing and everything, you know, a couple of times in my episodes, and so I do sort of apologize for that, but then again, like I say, it's one of those things that you know, you've got to do. Now, what I don't understand is why that unfolds, why I just can't. If I'm doing something wrong, if somebody knows of a way to just basically lower that so that when I jump out, I can unhitch the PTO and drop and basically lower it, and it is lowered. And now it's being raised, it's lowered again, so I don't know why that's giving me that problem. Lower it first, it is lowered. Well, that's weird. I don't consider that to be lowered, I consider that to be raised, but hey ho. Alright, so let's get right back into things. First of all, while we are here, let me just check and see how this silage is coming along. So we're still at grass, so we still have a little bit of time left before that becomes silage, but that's okay. We still have a bale or two of silage over here, and so that's all okay. We'll do fine. Let's see. Here is our tedder with a bale of hay in the way. Now, of course, this would be where having a hired helper and having perhaps another tractor would come in handy, because we could certainly do follow me. We could do follow me and have another tractor pull our rake, because obviously that's what we're going to be doing next, is obviously raking. And we'll connect that and get that going. All right. I suppose we also need to let me raise that up so it's not bouncing around. I suppose we could also sell the stump grinder. Because clearly I don't think we're going to be grinding any more stumps, because obviously if we were to cut any more trees, we would have to do it. We would have to cut the trees manually, and but I think we're fine on that. Still want to plant some trees. You know, that was sort of always Granddad's wishes, that whenever he would cut trees down for whatever reason, he would always replant trees. That was just kind of his way of making sure that he gave something back to Mother Nature. You take something from Mother Nature, you give something back, or maybe even you take one thing from Mother Nature, you give her two things back. And so that is going to still be our plan. As far as the county is concerned, they don't really, obviously we're not going to plant trees back where we cut them down along the fields, because obviously, even though we may not play this map a second year, the general storyline and everything that we're doing is obviously we're going to be here for years to come. So with that said, the county does not mind at all if we plant trees over in this county owned area to our right. So obviously we would not want to plant trees in the areas where we are currently mowing, because again, if we are playing this out and everything, we would want to be able to mow in these areas in the future. But in any event, we'll figure all that out whenever it kind of comes time to doing that. And we're going to just kind of slip through here. I think we're going to go up and work our way back down. So probably might be best for us to drive over here in the areas that we didn't cut, so that we don't run the risk of losing grass by running over it. Don't know if that's necessarily configured in, but we'll try to avoid it as best as possible. Also try to avoid scratching the tractor up with these branches and stuff, but may not be too impossible or too yeah, anyway. Back around to the main farm here. It's just right across to the right. Again, it would be nice if there were a gate. Now this version is, as far as I know, Old Guy Farmer was also, there's updated versions of this map. Maybe not the extra hard mode version, but I know that he was doing some other things with this map, and so putting in, there is a version of this map. I know Doughboy was playing it. I haven't heard from Doughboy in a while. I'm not sure what's going on there, if he's lost interest in creating videos or not, or if he's just been busy. Perhaps it's just some real world stuff that's going on. And of course it looks like we still have this issue where the tedder doesn't touch all the grass. I think that all is all sort of down to the terrain stuff with Farm Sim 17, and how that if the terrain is not perfectly flat, implements either have a difficulty driving over it, or it doesn't touch the grass in this case with the rake or the tedder. It's kind of unfortunate because it makes it a little, I always say that I try to play these games with as much realism as the game itself allows. And I also fully understand that if you had some terrain that wasn't perfectly smooth, that obviously the implements and stuff like that might not be able to contour to the ground and stuff. But if I look at this, if I stop the tractor and look at this, to me, visually, looking at it, the terrain looks pretty flat, pretty smooth. Now, why the tedder isn't able to touch all of the grass, I don't know. I think it's a bug in 17 that we've that I don't know that if we noticed it in 15 or if it even was there in 15. Could be something going on with the map. Again, this area over here, perhaps maybe the intention was never to really use this. But then again, we also saw this problem on the other side when we were cutting some of those other areas. So it kind of makes it, I don't know, kind of makes it a bit of a head scratcher, because clearly we can't get to some of that grass to ted it, and we'll try to go a different direction, go across. But again, this is such a narrow, sort of a narrow strip of land here, of field or pasture or whatever you want to call it, that it's just time consuming to do it that way. Kind of zigzag and go across. Of course, the Farm Sim 17, just like 15 was, it's kind of forgiving in the sense that, you know, if you're raking this stuff up and the majority of whatever it is one thing, then that's kind of what the baler is going to see. So it doesn't, but, you know, we did, because of this issue, because of this uneven terrain issue or whatever, we did end up producing one bale of grass when we were baling the other one, because it was sort of at the very tail end of the chamber filling up, and I think it will change to whatever the most recent type of either grass, hay, or straw, whatever the last little bit comes in right before the bell chamber fills, and that bell is then considered full. Whatever that product is what that bell is going to be classified as. So I think we were baling along hay, and then the bell chamber was like at, you know, 3,500 or 3,800 or whatever, and then it took in 300 or 500 liters of grass. Well, it turned that back to grass, and then we ended up getting a grass bell out of it. And really and truthfully, with seasons, there is absolutely no need to bale grass, because unfortunately your belled grass is going to deteriorate within just a couple of days. You know, there were some iterations, and I know I baled grass on law folds, and it worked out quite nicely, but that was before that they changed some of the behavior around grass, and now grass basically just simply deteriorates and vanishes within 2 game days, I believe it is. And so when you need to feed your cows grass, it's going to be in your best interest to just essentially mow that grass and probably pick it straight up with a forage wagon, and not even mess with baling it and picking it up and trying to store it, because unfortunately you're gonna end up losing it. Now, of course, you would bale grass if you were going to make silage, if you were going to wrap that to make silage, which is what we did. I think the first time that we started doing any mowing, I think that's what we did, was we mowed grass, we basically baled that grass, and then turned that into silage. Now, of course, I think, although I haven't tested it, and I'm not planning to test it here, but I believe that if you were to, for example, bale hay and you needed some silage or whatever, I guess that coon baler would essentially turn that grass back into, or turn the hay back into grass when it baled it, or when it wrapped it for silage purposes. But that's just sort of wasted effort, actually. So we'll go ahead and fold up and get back in between these trees here and go back down to the other area where we were cutting, and then go ahead and TED that and sort of work our way back to the entrance, because that's kind of what you got to do when it's one way in and one way out. And we're coming up on about 30 minutes, 28 minutes or so on the video timer, and I will just kind of start wishing you all a good day, and I'm not really sure what day this episode or when this episode is going to air. I'm still kind of building a little bit of a stockpile of things, of videos. I'm kind of still holding things, holding my schedule, I would say my more relaxed release schedule, I will call it, is kind of still the way that I'm doing things. Just simply because I do have some travel coming up. My wife and I have some other things that's going on. My wife is actually having surgery again. I think that probably by the time this episode actually airs, her surgery will have been done, I think. But yeah, so she's going to have some healing time is I guess the word that I'm looking for. We've been working, trying to get some projects done around the house while she is kind of able to help with things like, passing me tools, holding the ladder, kind of stuff like that. Swing back around and TED this area here, and then I'll proceed back up towards the diner and the gate there. Before I close out, I will just say that, Farmer Klein, I appreciate Farmer Klein updating me on this. I guess he had watched a live stream that Landy Kid had produced using the Coon, or not the Coon, but using the Corona big baler. And because obviously the experience that I had on this map with the Corona baler was such that this tractor wouldn't pull it, even though if I look at the specs of the horsepower specs and everything with regards to the required horsepower that's required to run the Corona baler, this tractor should be suitable just fine, but it's not. I even tested a larger horsepower tractor, like in the 400 range, and that tractor also would not power the Corona baler with any sort of speed that was going to be something that I was interested in using. I didn't test a larger. I guess the next test would be to throw a 500 plus horsepower tractor at it, but even then I don't know what the outcome would be. But some of the feedback that Farmer Klein said that Landy Kid had suggested was that the windrows, if the windrows were too big, that basically the Corona baler would perform that way. It would really slow down. It would bog down. But the windrows on this map, what I'm sort of doing here, and once we rake this, obviously the windrows are not huge. They're not. It's not like we're using the big hefty rake and everything like Farmer Klein. I forget what he calls it on the challenge, the man rake or something like that. It's not like we're using that. We're just using the two. I think it's just the two rake model version that's in the game. So it's not producing massively sized windrows. So I still think that there's some tweaking that needs to be done to that mod to make it a little bit more friendly for use. I mean, something that slows the speed down to just 2 or 3 miles per hour, I think is just maybe a little bit too slow. And I'm all about, playing things slow and steady and all that kind of stuff. Slow and steady does win the race and all that. That is true. But at the same time, you want things to have the appropriate, horsepower and the appropriate experience and everything, especially when you're doing, Let's Plays and stuff like that. It would take forever to rake a pretty good sized field, or I'm sorry, to bale a pretty good sized field with that baler if it behaves that way. So here's the deal. We're at 33 minutes according to the timer. I'm going to thank you all so much for watching my episodes, watching my content, watching my truck sim stuff, my farm sim stuff, watching the challenge both live and also coming back and catching the archive stuff. Folks are entering the contest for the giveaway, and that's going quite well. It's quite busy. A lot of folks entering the contest. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I am going to be giving away 3 copies of the upcoming new Giants DLC, the Platinum Expansion Pack. So that's just kind of my way of giving back to the community, using a bit of the money that I've made from Google and YouTube to give something back to others. And so that's what we're doing. And so you can get more information on what all that means and all that stuff by tuning into my live streams or watching my archive videos. So go do that, and just tune back in again when I release another video, either farm sim or truck sim, and or flight sim occasionally. And hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. Take good care of yourself and each other, and I will see you on down the road. Take care now. Bye bye.